So, like I said, can we survive? And the thing is, i.e., lack of military. Less people have joined the military since Trump has been out because they don't want to deal with critical race theory and gender sensitivity. We have a lack of fuel access, inflation. We have division amongst our people in the United States, a lack of patriotism, particularly on the left, dependency on all electronics, media propaganda, and so on and so on. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And all these things that are happening, as my cat jumps up here, all these things...
I'm sure he has an important opinion.
All these things that are happening, again, direct result because of President Corpse and the failure administration. And they're pushing us and pushing us and pushing us. They care more about the border in Ukraine than they do in America. They care more about Ukraine and gave them $6 billion. $6 billion? I can't remember how many billions. But they gave them more money, and they gave Iran more billions of dollars. But there are people in America starving, homeless, drug addicts on the streets, and we don't give a shit about them. We don't care. Let me be specific. Our government doesn't care about you people. Our government doesn't care about its citizens, not one bit. And the corpse in the White House, who said when he took office that he was going to reunite everybody, whether you were a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter, he was going to bring everyone together. Has he done that? No. In fact, he continues to call people who support Trump as dangerous as domestic terrorists. He's calling Americans domestic terrorists.
Just because we don't agree with them.
Like Clinton,
Basically,
like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Deplorables. So this is your government, people. Wake up. I have no faith in my government anymore. None. None. I feel like I'm right back where I was when Hussein Obama was destroying our country as well. It wasn't until Donald Trump took office that I actually had 4 friggin' years of comfort. And again, call me what you want, right-wing, lunatic, conspiracy theory, or white supremacist. I don't even give an F anymore. I don't care. Because you know what? I know what's right. I know what I've got to do in order to survive. But if you can't see that, then you need you've got to work that out. You want to worry about fucking pronouns and transsexual sensitivity and races, go right ahead. While you're doing that, I'm going to be preparing for the Third World War. Because I don't think you're going to be able to fight the enemy in high heels.
Now, there is a quote. I can only agree with you. That is
you.
Not really realistic.
I'm angry, Z. Oh, Iran, here's something interesting. Ukraine, I want to talk about equality with men and women. Ukraine is now designing body armor for women. Why? Because they're running out of men. They're being killed. So now they're getting their women to fight as well. Iran is doing something similar by telling its female population that they'll need to step in, or step up, I should say, and do the work of men at home. Like, remember the posters in World War II? Sally, the Riveter,
Sure, but that's a little strange, honestly, to me, because, Iran isn't actually sacrificing any men doing anything.
They will be. See, that's
maybe,
where...
But it's like, what are they doing now?
It's the thing, Z. The thing is, they know what's happening. They're ready for war. They're getting ready to fight.
Well, that's definitely their plan. Their big long-term plan is as we've discussed in other conversations off, the show. But, hey, they're looking to do a worldwide caliphate. They want to have the world ruled by Islam. So it's a theological objective, just like, to some degree, our President Corpse is engaging in an ideological perspective. But, basically principles are what should rule the day, and none of these entities have any principles or values except other than their own self-worth and making things better for them. It's truly horrible. Like, we are definitely puppets in the hands of people that have the power.
Threats have been made by Israel to Hezbollah, stating, quote, "You're next," unquote. Russia has threatened Finland, stating they will be the first to be attacked due to the fact that their association with America and that we have been using their military areas in Finland. They will be the first to be attacked, according to Russia. Things are not good. Things are bad all over.
I can see that. But honestly, this segment we were going to be talking more about U.S. issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What do you think of getting closer to the election here? Now that we're only technically 11 months away, less than that.
Only 11 months. That's it. Jeez.
Only. So, I mean, what are we gonna? Honestly, it's this is where I think we have some dangerous times as well. Just here, regardless of whatever might happen outside of our country.
Even if Trump wins, imagine the rioting that is going to take place in every major Democrat-run city.
And that's where you're not wrong. I mean, seriously, if he wins, we're going to see cars and buildings and properties burning across the nation again.
Going to get hurt.
Right. Which is another sign for all the people, what the heck is wrong with the other side when this is their solution to when they don't get their way. It's like a spoiled brat that gets their rattle taken away.
Here's the thing now you got to think outside the box. In the film Leave the World Behind, there is, I believe they talked about how there's a process which seems to be taking place right now in this country. From outside the country, they make it so that the interior of our country, the United States of America, and its American citizens begin division and fighting amongst themselves. Once that begins, you don't have to fire a shot, because there will be civil war and unrest, and that's where the problem could begin, especially if they take down the possibility of taking down communication. So,
at the very least, but once they take over communication, it's tough to get a word in edgewise. So I find it fascinating the way you describe that, honestly, Mike, because an interesting part of what we've talked to you about again offline is in Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Exactly what you just described is part of the plan. They know that there's no way to take over the United States with a military assault, because most of there's more guns than there are people. So they're going to be an uphill battle for any army or force that would like to invade the United States. So based on what he wrote, as he pointed out, the only way to get America to become a socialist communist country is to turn it from within. And that's where they've been working on this. Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I'm pointing out that this is part of the agenda. The best way to defeat the freedom-loving people of America is to turn them from within, from our education.
And it's been happening. It's been happening since Obama took office, because he was a start. It has been, but let's be honest. It really reared its ugly head when Dickhead was president. Okay, and that's
when it became obvious. Definitely
right. The handcuffing, the lack of a better term, having the police's hands tied. Okay, so they couldn't do their jobs, because everything they would do, it was a racist thing. You have the left and right fighting with each other, because who hates Trump and who believes in the Democrat way and how it's supposed to be. So everybody's at odds. And Lord help us if a civil war were to break out. Now, that would be absolutely catastrophic. But let's hope it doesn't get to that point. Again, I hope that the American people are beginning to really see this corrupt family that is destroying the United States of America. And anybody who thinks otherwise, that Biden's doing a good job, they're not reading the real polls. They're not seeing the science for what it is.
They don't care. They have their ideology.
Right.
It's ideology, not principles, and it's certainly not constitutional values.
And if one more person tells me about capitalism being bad, I'm going to kick him right in the nuts. Because they can sit there and tell me, they can sit there in this country and tell me that capitalism is bad, but they're still getting a fucking paycheck from wherever it is that they're getting, whether it's from the government or whether it's from the McDonald's or wherever they're working. They're still getting money. So they're full of crap. They're hypocrites.
The only thing that produces income is from capitalism. It doesn't come from government.
Exactly.
Government taxes it from the machine, from the mechanism of capitalist businesses, and then gives it out. So yeah, it's just ridiculous that, again, we are falling. It's again for our listeners, Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. They want the division between us. They don't care what groups divide us, but as long as we identify as one group and don't like another group, that's what they want. And that's what they've been instigating more and more for the last 3 years. And that's on purpose, because they actually, to your point, Mike, they want the revolution. They want conflict. They want armed, bloody conflict, because that is the definition of basically Marxist, Stalinist ideology, is that you need revolution to create change.
Of course.
You need this bloodletting somehow.
And we've got so many people that hate us, that's what they want to happen.
And
we had a lot of enemies.
The people can wake up and recognize the fact that if we work together, we can maybe avoid that and stop the mass bloodshed that the other side definitely wants, because they're pushing it. They're really pushing it, especially with the abuse of the legal system. The whole thing with 90 whatever indictments against the former president is ridiculous.
It's like a third world country.
All of it is complete bullshit. And it's not only like third world country, it's like Stalinist, Russia.
Right.
Basically, that's what he did to people that he disagreed with. They suddenly had 1,000 charges put against them, and then they were put in a firing squad or whatever, It's horrific that we are mimicking what has already happened in history. And somehow majority of people just are not seeing it still, because honestly they're lost in their own worlds. They're watching sports. They're
lost in their cell phones and their iPads and their Facebook and all other shit.
They're concerned about who's going to be the next Bachelor and who's going to be the next Survivor and who's going to be their next sports hero that's going to do a winning touchdown. Meanwhile, literally the country is
burning.
If patriotic, principled individuals do not win this next election, might as well just, really start prepping for whatever future you want to try and live in, because it will not be the American Republic that we've known.
That's right. I tell you, I've never been more frightened in my life. I really haven't. When I was between the ages of 13 and 21, at 13, Reagan was president. And, at the time, I was a young kid. I didn't understand politics. But at the time, it was always, Reagan. Like, I would see the jokes on Saturday Night Live where they joke about Reagan, hitting the nuclear button and starting a war.
Yep, I remember. Dana Carvey used to do this imitation of them, right?
So, from 13 to about age 21, I used to have nightmares about nuclear war. I used to be very frightened, because that's what I was brought up on, knowing that, the potential of having a war with nuclear weapons.
Did you ever have to do a duck and cover in school or
no.
something like that? Or is this fire drills? I remember fire drills.
Fire drills, yeah, but we used to have legitimate reasons for that. But no, never duck and cover kind of thing. Not that would fucking save you anyway, because bye-bye. That ain't going to do shit. I got news for you. If you duck and cover, you better...
You're a pile of ashes on the floor.
Ashes, yeah, if that. So yeah, duck and cover. That's the silliest thing I ever saw. But yeah, no, what I'm trying to say is that back then I used to dream and have nightmares of nuclear war. Now, I can honestly say I haven't had a dream, but I am absolutely terrified about something going on. Now, I just looked up recently. I looked up the doomsday clock. The doomsday clock has been set at 90 seconds to midnight. In my humble opinion, I would say they should put it at 30 seconds to midnight or 60 seconds to midnight, because that's how close I think we are. 90 seconds? No, we're closer than that.
So I haven't looked that up before. Is there a history to it? Can you see if, like, last year it was like a longer distance to where it is now, or has it gotten worse over the last 3 years?
For the most part, since Trump was president, they've had it at 2 minutes and less. I can't remember the exact numbers that they had, but since Trump, everybody was so petrified. Oh, Trump's going to start a war. Trump prevented wars.
Nobody died during his administration.
Right. And had it been done right, Trump began the what would you call it? The troops leaving from Afghanistan. However, when President Corpse took over, he screwed everything up by taking all the military out instead of doing it the proper way.
And causing a huge amount of deaths.
Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people died.
Well, I mean, the immediate effect of that terrorist, doing suicide bombing, killed 200 Afghanis and 13 of our
all
guys.
Because he had no idea what he was doing. None.
Well, I'll still maintain that he's just a puppet. Whatever the puppet was doing with his body at that time, they didn't know what the heck they should do.
Right. So think about this, okay, Z? Think about this. The world stage sees this terrible calamity take place in Afghanistan by Americans, the military, American military, leaving Afghanistan. And for 19 years or 20 years, however long it was, that we had occupied that area to try to make things better. First of all, trying to make it a democracy was absolutely stupid, all right? Because this is never going to happen, all right? But my point is...
Nation building is a failure as it is.
My point is this. When they try to leave, instead of doing the right thing by taking the people out who helped us and give them sanctuary and asylum, they didn't do that. So what happens? All our other so-called allies and or enemies, mostly the allies, see this happen, and now they're all backing away. They don't want anything to do with it. France has now been negotiating with Saudi Arabia in order to get their oil through them. They're not going to use the American dollar. Who else? Other countries like...
that's what China wants, too.
There are other countries that are our allies who also saw the same thing. And now the same with Israel. Israel's being told they cannot defend themselves. They have to take it easy. Now look, I'm going to say this, right? Even though I stand by Israel, because Israel is a very important part of the American foothold in the Middle East, okay? However, I think they need to kind of like stop. I think what's happening
there. How do you mean?
Well, don't get me wrong. I don't like terrorists, okay? And I also have a problem with religions. The three main ones. And out of the three main ones is Muslim Islam religion. They are aggressive people who will kill you because they believe their God told them so. So when they do things like this, I don't like that. And so they'll be the first to step up and take advantage of a situation of a ceasefire. How many times there were ceasefires in Israel between the Gaza Strip and Israel? And Hamas would fire at them all the time. It means nothing to them. They don't know how to deal with things
really
diplomatically.
Peace. Well, they don't want peace.
That's the other point. But what I'm trying to say,
the major point is it's always been
right.
bullshit. They've never wanted a two-state solution. They just want Israel
I understand
gone.
that. All I'm saying is that if Israel were willing to make a negotiation to some extent, because all the other Muslim countries are getting pissed off at Israel, and now they want to kill them too. So I'm afraid that Israel's putting themselves, I can't even say they're backing themselves up into a corner, because there is no corner. They're being attacked from all sides. So, what to do? Because America's certainly not helping them.
Well, that's because, of course, we have a feckless administration. But I have to say, Israel's doing exactly what they need to do.
Good.
They need to wipe out their immediate enemy, and they will move on to the next one if they have to.
Right, and I hope it happens.
That's where
I just don't want to see anything bad happen, see?
I don't have any problem with them defending themselves whatsoever.
Me neither.
And that's where, they have to do what they're doing right now. And no matter how many enemies turn towards them, I can go back to the biblical, story of David, and the lions. They will happily walk into the lion den and face as many lions as they need to make sure they have the right to exist, because they absolutely do.
That's right.
And one of the most important things I've heard recently in all the pundits and everything that I've been hearing about this conflict was pointed out an interesting fact that the word Palestinian or Palestine was actually always used in reference to actual Jews. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until they got, given the territory by the world governments, essentially, to have the state of Israel, that term got co-opted by the Muslims that just happened to be in that area.
That's right.
And then the whole idea that the Palestinians are refugees, no, they aren't. Yeah,
they've been there for 5,000 years.
Have you seen the footage of the city? That's not a refugee camp. That's a city. Once you build buildings, you're no longer a refugee camp. You're an actual city. I mean, there's got to be a definition there. So it's complete horseshit that, they ever, honestly, Israel has had this issue ever since the day they started their new country. And they should not have that issue in front of them. I saw a video, a clip. I didn't watch the clip, but I saw the thumbnail like we do when we watch our YouTube feeds. And this thumbnail came up, and it talked about how the Israelis and the Palestinians have been in conflict for 13,000 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's complete clickbait, because that's bullshit. That's not the case whatsoever. Muslim populations had generally no problem with the Jewish populations until they got given their own state.
That's right.
And then that's when the whole
because they turned a desert into a thriving land.
Right. Where not only are Israelites or Jewish people are allowed to be there, but
and so are the
there's
Muslims.
A good percentage of Muslims. Yeah.
Right.
They're part of the actual government. There's a percentage of Muslims that vote.
And what do the Muslims do to show their appreciation for the religious sites that are in Israel or Jerusalem, I should say?
Yeah.
They exclude Jews and Christians from coming into areas that were originally claimed by Christians or Jews. Now listen, I'm not a religious person. I'm just stating the obvious history,
this is the real
information,
reality.
the facts. The Muslim people, the Muslim Arabs, let me start that again. The Muslims who are Arabs in that country, they think that, for the most part, that Israel should not exist. Not only, let's be fair, not only Jews, but Christians as well. Nothing matters to them except for the Quran and their God, Muhammad Ali. That's it.
Yes. It might be a mispronunciation, but yes, I understand your point.
Don't care. Don't care. Listen.
Well, to your point, did you hear that it was in Nigeria? I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look it up real quickly. But there was actually, over Christmas, there was a mass execution of Christians on Christmas Day, and it was by the local, I apologize to the audience, the Muslim population, whatever they identified as.
Oh, really? Muslims killed them? Oh, I'm surprised.
Yeah, yep. They killed all the Christians that were, attending, Christmas services and celebrating their Christmas.
Where was this? In Africa?
I think it was Nigeria. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Nigeria.
Just like southern Africa, where, remember a couple of years ago where maybe about 10 years ago now that I think about it, where they wanted to take back the land of South Africa, and they started killing anybody who was a Caucasian. Farmers, and they were taking over their land and killing the landowners.
Yep. Here you go. It was similar to that. I'm sorry, I just found the story.
All right, go ahead.
Fury, as this is off of a UK website, express.co. Fury as massacre of almost 200 Christians partially blamed on climate change.
Right.
Down here we have...
So what did they die of? Sunburn? Or bullets?
Yeah, right. Has been partially blamed on climate change despite claims of followers of the church
how
for
stupid
being
do you have to
targeted
be?
and genocide perpetrated by Muslims.
So what are they saying? How did climate change kill them? With bullets?
I guess we just have to read this further, but I mean, the headline alone is just absurd.
Idiots.
Let's see. Massacre of 26 different villages in Nigeria with bands of armed and with guns and machetes attacking locals.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about that. I mean, you said it only happened yesterday?
It was on Christmas.
Oh,
it was good Christmas news.
Good. That's nice. Very nice.
There we go. So that is shared for everybody, like, how well loved Christians are in general.
Yeah. Look, I've got my issues with religion. From number 1, Islam. Number 2, Christians and Jews. Let me rephrase that. Sorry, Christianity and Judaism. I don't have a problem with people, okay? It's the religion that I don't like. It is my opinion that religion is, as my cat shows you its ass. It is my opinion.
Thankfully, it's just his tail.
It is my opinion that religion is the cause of many problems in the world, particularly with Muslims, because they always use it in everything they do. When they go to kill somebody, it's Allah Akbar. So, I don't see anybody running up to somebody with a gun and saying, Jesus Christ lived. You don't see that much, or you don't see, let's go Yahweh, ha, and I kill you. You don't see any of that. Only the Muslims do that, because it's all about religion with them, and that's how they believe the world should work. So I want people to understand when I say that I don't have a problem with people, I have a problem with religion. I hate everybody equally.
And so to maybe put an interesting point on it all, we were talking about before with the world conflicts, that's more ideology, because they're driven by their principles of world domination based on communism. And then we have ideology, which is what the mullahs of Iran believe in, and that's what they're pursuing, because that's what's most important to them. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, back here in the United States, we have principles and values. Yeah. And that's still something that's
debatable these days.
There we go. I mean, that's another discussion maybe for the next show. But, definitely a good percentage of us have principles and values. And then there's a good percentage of us that have absolutely none, and no morals and no scruples, and however many terms you want to describe. Just as you watch the violence unfold in every city across the nation, it's just... where does people's appreciation for humanity come from once they don't have religion in their lives? Where do you get morals and principles if you don't have some sort of, guidance from a religion or some sort of belief system that tells you what right and wrong is?
Well, I could answer that question for you. It starts at home with parenting, number 1. Number 2, it then follows up with education in school. And both are failing. You have kids having kids. Not that that was ever a problem. I mean, all throughout history, young people were having babies. I mean, King Tut was a father at age 9, I think. So my point is this: you got forget about morals just for a second. Humanity has been mating and procreating its entire existence, and whether or not they procreate at 10 or 23. Doesn't matter. The point of the matter is that's how certain cultures work. The thing is, here in America, that I can obviously say is a serious problem, is the fact that home education, home parenting is in trouble. Because you have too many people, as you said, once you lose that religion, like, there is one thing I believe in religion about, particularly with Christianity, because I was brought up Roman Catholic. So when you have that in your life, the Bible is supposed to, it's a series of stories that are supposed to teach you how to be good to your neighbor and your brother and your parents and your children and blah, blah, blah. When you no longer have morals, that breaks down not only the family, but social civilization. So instead of having people growing up in a family with a mother and father and brothers and sisters to help not only raise them, but teach them the rights and wrongs of the world, well, then you've lost that, number one. Now you send your kid off to school, and let's just say, for example, your child is Caucasian. Now you've got teachers telling Caucasian kids, you're guilty of white privilege. You're a racist because you're white. So now you got kids growing up, not only are they having bad parenting, but their education system is now telling them, you're a fuck up and you deserve punishment. And this all happened within the last couple of years.
Well, not a couple of years. Honestly, it's been over the last 20 some odd years.
Let me be specific. The whole thing with accusing white people as being wrong in their DNA, that started with Obunga.
Well, honestly, I'm going to go back to my other point is that the fact that this has been an agenda
for 100
based,
years.
For 100 years.
I get it.
And I honestly know at least not only my own children, but another individual that is just about to turn 21, and they most definitely have a lot of Marxist ideology in them. And so they've grown up completely in the digital era. They, have always had a phone and, access to the internet, and they firmly feel that, the America is bad because, they oppress the world type of idea.
Right.
And
but they're still here. Right. They still have their cell phones and their Facebook and their Instagram and this, that, and the other, and they still get the money if they're getting welfare or if they're getting unemployment. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So they're hypocrites. They're full-on hypocrites.
No. The thing is that I don't even know if they know they're hypocrites.
They don't.
Because honestly, they've been educated, to believe this shit, that America is bad.
Right.
That we purposely committed genocide against the Native Americans.
Right.
When that was not really the case whatsoever. Sure, there was some horrible things done to the Native Americans, but it wasn't like an overall objective of the U.S. government as like the Nazis had a, final solution for the Jews and the Christians and anybody else they didn't agree with over in World War II. It's not the same thing. You can't say that, U.S. planned the genocide of Native Americans. That's just,
of course
not reality.
The problem with these younger people, this younger generation who thinks that America's so horrible, is that they don't do their research. They don't. They think that like America is the only country that had slavery, when in reality, slavery started, like I think 1,000 years before it even happened, with the Muslims imprisoning Christians. Thousands and thousands.
Slavery's been happening since the Jews were
since the dawn of time
by Egypt.
Since the dawn of time, tribes take over tribes. The American Indians did it with other tribes. They don't do the research. That's their problem. And they need to shut up on subjects that they don't know about.
The absurdity is almost on the level of the fact that they believe slavery only happened between whites and blacks.
Right. Like I just said,
Yeah.
The Christians were enslaved. Thousands and thousands and thousands of them were enslaved, taken from Europe and brought to the Arab countries and used as slaves. But you don't hear anything about that. In fact, it still happens in Africa. It still happens in the Arab countries. But you don't see them taking a plane to fly over there and hold their fucking signs up and say, "Oh, queers for Palestine." Bang! Because that's what would happen in an instant.
Exactly. So it is amazing. Like there is no perspective, and again, history is one of the greatest things in the world that brings perspective on what's going on now.
And those who don't know it will suffer to repeat it.
Exactly, or they want to repeat it. I mean, if they have the ideology, then that's the case.
Well,
so
look at the topic. If I may just add, look at the topic of the Great Reset. That's what they're talking about now. The Great Reset, starting everything over. Let a virus or a war wipe out millions of people. They want to, from what I understand, the concept of the Great Reset is to bring the population back down to 5 billion.
Well, and again, that's a Marxist agenda. That's
right.
Honestly, again, one of the rules for radicals. You know, you have to.
Right.
A smaller population is easier to control.
Warning: if you find the content of this program to be offensive, too bad.